Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to David Duford's channel. I'm David Duford, and we're here today to talk about some success stories from the field. We've got Mr. Matt here and our broker face-to-face final expense trainer, David. Matt is a new agent. He's written a good bit of business in his first week. I think 4 policies first week. Is that right, Matt?
Yes, 4 in the first, yes.
Which is absolutely fantastic. And we like to basically examine that success, because as I tell agents who are getting started in final expense, whether with me or any other agency, you have to sell something that first full week in the field. If you don't basically count your days, you're numbered, you're done. And so it's really important to pick up on the character traits and the activities that successful agents do. And I think it's a great idea to look at somebody who just got started with us, what they did to be successful in preparation, but also in execution. And as new agents out there, struggling agents, learn how to execute the same kind of factors, because it's your success depends on it. So Matt, let's get started with you first. Give us a little introduction about yourself and how you came into the insurance business.
All right, my name's Matthew Letchworth, or Matt Letchworth. I was I'm a I was recruited basically from an MLM style. I was working at a grill. I'm a musician. I'm all over the place right now, but I'm a
Okay.
musician. That's my full-time job for the past like 4 or 5 years, and it's mainly Thursday through Sunday, or Saturday evenings, and then Sundays during the day sometime. And so about a year ago, I picked up a like a midweek job, Monday through Friday, just because I had that open time slot. And so I started working at a grill, this local grill. And so I worked there the past year. And at that grill, my girlfriend also works at the grill. This guy approached us and mentioned this job opportunity selling life insurance. And so I sort of dabbled with he sent us the link to get started with the training and like to take the test. And so I sort of dabbled with it. I got like halfway through and I was kind of overwhelmed. I didn't feel like the information was sticking. And so I just sort of put it on the back burner for a little while. And then a year passes by, and another guy that had just started with that same company, he was only like a month green. He was like, yeah, he worked for the guy that first recruited us or first pitched the eye. He was working for him now. And he was like, I'm crushing it. It's easy. You need to do it too. And this guy lives a little closer to me. So he was like, you can come on under me and I'll get you to do ride-alongs. He was like, when I started, I didn't get any ride-alongs because no one lived nearby. So he was kind of like pitching, like, you should work under me, not that guy, because we could work together. And so I was like, that sounds good. So it kind of reignited my interest in doing it. So I followed through with the test, and I passed the test. And I had submitted the thumbprints. I have to submit thumbprints for my state, and I had done that after the test. And so it took like 2 months for me to finally get my
Oh
license.
yeah.
That time I had been talking to this guy, and he came over to our house. He wanted to come over for dinner, him and his girlfriend, or him and his wife, and come see me and my girlfriend for dinner, and just to talk to me and be like, "This is what we're doing," and explain it. And I immediately, within minutes of meeting this guy for the first time, I was like, "This dude's trying to sell me." It felt
Yeah.
so like I felt like he was reading a script to me and
Ah.
my at dinner about like basically I just didn't feel like he even understood insurance himself. And then I just started thinking, I was like, it is weird. He's only a month new and he's going to be my boss. And like he's training me. It didn't make sense. So I just started, I knew the license was coming. I just knew there was a waiting period. So I just Googled, I was like, what is this company? I looked it up and I like kind of researched what an IMO was, like because I really didn't know. I just knew this company was an insurance company. I didn't even know they were an IMO. I thought they were an insurance company. So through my Googling, I finally was like, what is a good IMO? And that's when your blog post started popping up and you had
Ah.
been viewing different IMOs. And so I was like, okay, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. So I just started watching all your reviews about all the IMOs. And then once I learned that you yourself were an agency recruiting, it just interested me so much that you were very transparent about sort of the what everyone else was misleading about. You seemed to just straight up like you just you just came outright with it. Like, it wasn't like you weren't trying to deceive me. You were like, this is the fact of the matter. It's not as simple as just going to see, like I told you right before we started recording, like they made it seem like you would go see you'd go see two old people for breakfast and you'd go golf and buy lunch with $4,000 in your pocket. Like,
Yeah.
and every day, rinse, repeat. Like, it was nothing to it. And
It's
so,
that easy, just like
yeah,
everything in life, right?
but do this,
let me
that.
let me bring David in here. David, as you and I both know, David Heath is our face-to-face broker trainer. He's been in the business for many, many years. We all know, if you've been in the business long enough, like literally 3 out of 4 of the agencies out there are multi-level marketing. And I just would like your comment on that, Dave. What should new agents be prepared to be aware of when it comes to MLM? Like, why is that a bad thing? I think that's a good place to kind of start our conversation.
Well, I think the first thing to be aware of is how long has the person over you been in the business? Like Matt was talking, a lot of these MLMs within the first 6 months, if they see you have any people skills at all, they put you to recruiting. Want you to build a team, which I guess would be all good if they knew what they were doing at that time. But I don't feel that 6 months into the business is enough knowledge, definitely not enough wisdom to lead and carry a team, first of all. The other part is the pay. They have to keep you down in pay because there's such an upline above that has to feed off of that. So they're not offering you the best pay. And then you go in there and ask for a raise, try that and see how well that goes over. They're going to tell you got to recruit 20 people, do so, they've got all these steps when just going out and selling is not good enough to get a raise for some reason anymore. And I don't get that myself, David.
Yeah, and it's the real nature of the insurance business, predominantly in the life insurance side, final expense, mortgage protection, et cetera, is that there's a big MLM influence. One of the biggest MLMs that was around 20 years ago in the insurance space, they came from Amway, Herbalife, et cetera. Like, so their mentality is basically engendered into the business. And from this particular MLM agency, a lot of have spawned off. All the big names you've heard of, they all originated from this mentality. And this is important because Matt mentioned something that is just vital to understand. Like, good agents that sense something's wrong, like you got a month in the business and you're recruiting people and training people, like, why would anybody of quality would ever want to work with somebody like that? And I don't mean that as any offense to anybody per se, but like, for real, like, your better quality candidates see right through the veneer of BS. Like, they know what you're doing. It's an MLM recruiting scheme. This is why we advocate agents. I mean, if there's nothing wrong with recruiting per se, but like in its due time, actually get some street cred first before you start telling people about an amazing opportunity that you personally haven't experienced. It's just kind of incredulous and dubious at best. So very important point, whether you join an organization like us, it's focused on sales, the Ford Insurance Group, or not, you need to vet who you're bringing on, because sometimes it isn't obvious, and it makes a difference, right? So Matt, let's go back to you. I think kind of pivoting into the differences here, where do you think the differences lied between what you originally proposed with this MLM versus what we are doing here at the Ford Insurance Group? If you can kind of explain the differences and how it affected you immediately or initially.
Well, just even your training, one of the first things he did was he did hook me up. Like, he was like, get on these conference calls and start listening to our presentation. And even their presentation was like, it was like 15 minutes of like front loaded. You're pitching this medical bill savings. And then at the end, you'd be like, oh yeah, and by the way, I could also get you life insurance if you were interested. But it's like, you presented it like, we're there to save you money on your medicines. And that just rubbed me the wrong way immediately, because I was like, I feel like I would rather be honest and get straight to the point. That's sort of what I was assuming. And
Right.
so even just your script, when I first got access to the school, it was very honest. You were like, we're here about final expense programs. Right at the door, you say it. You don't say the I word, as you say it, but you're being honest. You're not misleading at all. And I felt like they were just misleading. I felt like the guy recruiting me was, I knew immediately he was just actively recruiting everyone. I mean, he was posting it on Facebook. He was taking pictures of money, like this is how much I made this morning. It was like a lot of cash.
Right.
And it just felt off. And I was like, if this is what I'm getting into, I need to see if it's any other better options, or if this is what it's just like. And so once I stumbled onto your stuff, I started just watching all your videos. And actually, one of the first things that really made me want to work for you was I like asked you a question on a forum or something, and you like video responded in maybe like 30 minutes. It was like early morning too, but you sent me a video response explaining it. And you didn't know me from Adam. Like, you were just like explaining how the ACA and the ICRAs worked. And it was a very thought out, like, well explanation. And I was like, man, if he did that for me at 7 a.m, and like he's probably got a million emails, I feel like that's a good indication that they are, it's like easy to talk to and very informative, but they also are willing to help you. Whereas this other, even the guy that was recruiting me, he had mentioned when he started, they sort of threw him to the wolves. And he was like promising he wouldn't do that to me, but I wasn't sure he could back that promise up. I didn't think he knew. Like, it sticks to my brain. One of the things he kept saying was like, I don't even buy leads. I just go around looking for Buicks. And I was just like, that doesn't sound very efficient. It's just like, it was red flags left and right. So once I landed on your information and just how honest you were, and it just felt right. So I got access to your school thing. And while I was waiting for the thumbprints to come up, I was just already looking at your, like, studying the script and just going through the insurance school success, the second group. I was working through that just to get familiar. And I pretty much knew then. I was like pretty sold on, once you responded to me and all the content you had given away free, I was pretty sold on that. You knew the business, and I liked the commission rates, and it just felt like a good fit. I felt like it would work for me. Your style of teaching just clicked, and the way the school was set up, I was able to go through it easily. I still flip through the presentation modules all the time. Like, I just listen to them passively.
Perfect.
It's just laid out. It's just laid out well. And then since I've started, the one-on-one with David has been a big thing too, as far as
let's talk about that, because in January 2023, we made this incredible transition. I mean, it's really a transformation. From that period prior, David was here as an agent prior to this, and he knows how I ran things. It was just basically group training. I mean, very good training, don't get me wrong, but I made a conscious decision as the owner of my company that the biggest issue and challenge in this business is the lack of like David called it this, and I thought it was actually an old school way of doing business, training agents, hands-on mentorship style. And I'm here to tell you the results have been outstanding. They have been transformative. There's nothing like what I've experienced based on this mentorship model, where every agent that gets into our agency gets a one-on-one mentor like David or Joe or Tim for telesales or face-to-face final expense, either or. We coach on it both. Can you kind of explain to the audience that maybe they don't understand quite the power of mentorship? What was that like doing the one-on-one with David in that training, and what's the impact been for you?
Yeah, the one-on-one, especially my first week or the first 2 weeks in the field, I've had to call him pretty much on every app I've closed, and he answers immediately, and he knows exactly the questions I'm asking. Or like, I mean, I don't know if I would have definitely hit a brick wall on most of those applications and just not known how to move forward without being able to call him. And so that's been invaluable as far as just closing and figuring out how to get through the process, because it's very like nerve-wracking. You don't know what you don't know,
right?
And get to it, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize I was even going to run into this. And so you just text him in-house and give him a call, and if you don't answer, he's calling you back within 60 seconds. And there was one that I was at, I think it was the third and fourth app I wrote, on a Saturday. It was a Saturday. I probably called him like 15 times in a row. I was like, one more time, David. I just want to make sure this is right. And the people sitting with me, they loved it. They were laughing, but they were like, yeah, we want to we're glad you're being thorough.
Yeah.
So they had no problem with it at all. And I was like, yeah, I know he's probably like, leave me alone on my Saturday off or whatever, but they thought it was funny too. And so it really was like, and it was sometimes small questions, or sometimes it was like I needed flat out underwriting help, and whatever he sat there on the phone with me and figured it out until I was good to go.
And guys, this is not the norm in the business, y'all. Like it's not. It's you figure this stuff out. Don't call me. Don't bother me. That's the norm. You might get a phone call from another upline or your upline where you're at, like days later, sometimes never. And of course, the opportunity is far past. And guys, it's so critical in the beginning to get this kind of support. This is kind of the thing that dawned on me, is that, I mean, it could be the difference between Matt making 1 sale versus 4. And then the psychological impact of thinking, well, yeah, I made a sale, but man, what if this business isn't for me? And that kind of downward spiral, and the fact that those deals were had and helped by some amount by David means the difference between success and failure in a lot of ways. And that's why I cannot harp on this enough of just one of many examples why mentorship is so invaluable to a new agent's success. David, can you pop in here and explain? Because here's the thing. We're looking for a particular type of candidate. Matt is that. Not everybody is a good fit for what we do, because some people are just unteachable. Let's face it. You know? But what do agents need to have from kind of a character standpoint to really have a good chance of success in this business? I think it's important that people weigh this into consideration as well.
Well, the first thing, like Matt, you have to be coachable, because we do have what I call an SOP, standard operating procedure. Here with our group, we follow the same script. We have to put in the same amount of time studying. One thing I can say for Matt, he was a little easier to work with than some. And the reason was he was waiting on those fingerprints. So he was studying before he got to me. And that helped a lot with Matt, helped on the learning curve. But the other thing I think you have to be is you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset. You have to have a business mindset. If you want to work for the guy, this may not be for you. You know, if you want to hit a clock every day, you know, you've got to have the mindset that I'm going to rinse, wash, repeat, you know, wash, rinse, repeat. I'm sorry. But we're going to just keep doing the same thing every day. And the numbers is where it's going to work. And when Matt and I talked, he said, can I be successful? I said, as long as you do this much activity, you can be successful. And he's like, well, how do you know that? It's a numbers game. If you will go out, use our script, do what we're asking you to do, and do the activity that we set for you, you're going to be okay. And Matt, I want to commend him. He's always asked very good questions. That's another thing. Sometimes I've been doing this a long time. I may just assume that you understand what this word means, and you have no clue. But Matt will stop me. He'll be, oh, wait a minute, David. Now, say that again. And I like people who do that, because that lets me know they're listening. First of all, if they stop me and make me repeat, they're paying attention. But just Matt's pure activity, it really thrills me on how he's gone out and just, I mean, he's done everything. I've asked him to drive all over the country over there, and he's done it. I mean, he's done it, but he's being profitable while doing it.
Awesome. Matt, give us some insight. And I know you're new to the business, but I do think it's really important to have a newly successful agent's insight on the business, because everything's fresh, everything's new. And you have that kind of like firsthand experience that, you know, for me and David is so far in the past. What kind of advice or a couple of tips would you give to aspiring agents or people thinking about getting licensed that want to make sure they get the best amount of success as they can in the business of final expense as quickly as they can?
Definitely You definitely have to be persistent. And you kind of don't expect, like we were saying earlier, just to work like part-time. I work more time now these first 2 weeks. I probably work 50 or 60 hours a week versus the 40 I was at my last job. And there's just a lot of in between time between the successful moments that you sort of have to just buckle down and say, it's like you're whale hunting. Like you're going to pass by a million little fish to get to that big whale. But if you stop looking, like you got to be persistent, is what I would say is ultimately the real ultimate thing. And also sort of just getting rid of the nerves. You kind of get nervous approaching every house, especially door knocking. But I've just gotten good about being like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. The worst, like you've said before, both of y'all have told me before, it doesn't matter. Like, worst they're going to do is tell you no, tell you to leave. And then you just get back in your car and drive another 30 minutes to the next person, and then you try it. But even day one, my very first door knock, I made the guy really mad in the presentation, and he was even mad I showed up unannounced. But lo and behold, the door knock script is one that I nail, I feel like. And so even very first door knock, make the guy mad immediately sitting down because I jumped a price or whatever. But he let me in. He did let me in. After just sort of being like, I'm sorry to show up unannounced, but it only take like 5 or 10 minutes to
Nice.
show you how this works. Can we go over it? And he was just like, all right, come on in. Let's see what you got. And then I sort of abandoned the script because he was pushing prices.
Mm.
I threw up that anchor point. He just like about had a little mini stroke in front of me. and so he was just not having it. But it was a learning lesson. I learned there to like, you can't let them lead the conversation. You sort of just got to be patient. And you'll find that if you're just consistent enough, there are people filling out these like information requests that genuinely want it, that are genuinely concerned. And so you're just looking for those people. You're looking through your lead batch to find those people. And if you don't make contact with everyone, you don't know what you're missing out on. So the drive-in is necessary. You have to make contact with these people. A lot of them don't answer the phone. So even there's a house right now I've been to 6 times. No one's been home yet, but she's
Yet.
in the stack until I see her face to face. So I'm gonna just keep circling back. There's no reason
Right.
not to. I don't know that she's not dying to have. She might be itching to buy right now, but I
Right.
just haven't found her at home. So
Do you
it's
feel
just
like the nerves have reduced that you've done this a couple of times now? I mean, you mentioned the nerves
yeah,
of door knocking. Has it gotten better?
for sure. Yeah, the first week you always get this little pit in your stomach as you're pulling up. But once I'm out the car standing at the door, I'm sort of like, well, I'm already out here now. Might as well try
Right.
it. Give it a
Right.
shot. And
Right.
I have not had very many people be even rude to me. Most of them, the most difficult thing you deal with is people denying that they even filled it out. But most of the time, you just like kind of smile at them. You're like, you filled this out yesterday, didn't you? Like, it wasn't a long time ago. I was, and you just kind of go like, I understand you get stuff like this all the time, and it's like, but you just kind of, and then you jump right back into the script, and they either shut you down or they let you in here. But it's like it doesn't hurt you to try. So the nerves
Right.
have gone down definitely though from week 1 to week 2. I felt a
Good.
lot better this week, and I just understood after a week of doing it. I sort of understood that you could work 2-3 weeks in a row and not hit anybody. Like I sort of get how the number or the ratio works out. And so I just buckled down and was like, I'm going to just drive I got my leads and I plugged them into the Road Warrior app. You suggested that. And so I just plug them in. I look for clusters and like, I'll be like, oh, this cluster is over here. It's like 30 minutes away, but there's 4 or 5 within a 10. So I drive there and I'll just circle around and I'll check them off as I see them. And then if I don't see them, I'll just write a little note like not home, first door knock. And then it just goes back into the pile. And then the next day I'll print out any fresh leads. And I try to target the fresh leads as quickly as possible, but it doesn't necessarily work out. But I feel pretty good. The first week I had ordered 30 leads and I only got to about 17 of them or 18.
Ah, okay.
And so this week I only ordered 15 more. And I still have about 10 that I haven't made any contact with. And I have 4 appointments that I did meet the person, but they were like, can you come back at a different time, like the first of next week? So
Sure.
I feel good about that, because they were like, I can't do it right now. A lot of them were evening times, because the first week, another thing I changed was the first week, I was very accustomed to that grill job. I had to be there at like 6:30 every morning. So I was like, I'm just up early. And so I was out and about like 7:30, 8 o'clock, but I was crashing at like 4. And I was like, I'm going to shift this back a little bit. So now I've started kind of like getting in my car with my leads ready around 9. And I'll go to the gas station and get gas or whatever. And then I'll listen to our call, the morning call we have with David Heath. And I'll just kind of stay on that while I'm driving to my first batch of leads. And so my first door knock's around 10. But I've been like, last night, my last door knock was at 6:30.
Right.
So I extended, and that guy set an appointment with me for Tuesday morning. He didn't want to do it that night, but he was like, come back Monday morning. I had an appointment. I was like, well, Tuesday work. And so he was like, yeah, come back Tuesday. So it helped. Like, I could have easily just driven home because it was a little bit out of the way, but I was already like 30 or 45 minutes from my house. And that one lead was probably like 15 or 20 minutes further out. But since I was that much closer to him already, I was like, I might as well go by now and at least try to make that contact. That way I'm not driving an hour and a half back tomorrow just to him not be here. And it worked out. And so that just goes back to the persistency thing, and just these people filling this out. They're at the very least curious.
Right.
So
right.
Face-to-face meeting with them and be like, I'm here about the stuff you're curious about. Do you mind me
doing my job?
Exactly. I'm here just to that's what I say. I'm here just to explain. People fill this out all the time, but they're usually at least curious. And my job is just to explain how the programs work to you to help you better understand your options. Right. And that's sort of I just been rinsing and repeating that. And a lot of the closes I've had, I think I did my 7th app yesterday.
Good.
I actually
app
day 1, but it did get kicked back for extra underwriting. And so I doubled back to her and try to set her up with a different carrier. But that was just like growing pains and kind of learning the underwriting process a little better. But I felt good about that because I got through the whole presentation. I closed it effectively. I just didn't underwrite her appropriately.
Right. Well, that's okay. That happens, and that's part of the key thing. Before we wrap this up, I'll tell this to agents too. Like, there are some lessons that can't be taught, in the sense of, you just got to go do the thing, and you're going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes, right? The key though is, it's almost like if you think of yourself as a boat and you got holes where the water's leaking, and you got to fill that hole of lack of knowledge, right? And then never let that hole be opened again, right? So as long as you're fixing the mistakes the first time around, eventually the holes are all plugged and you find things are chugging along. So that's normal stuff, Matt. And I want to thank you so much for being here. It's been a great pleasure to have you on, kind of talk about your success and also just what you've experienced. I think it's very valuable for anybody that's looking to get in this business, and honest, transparent look at what to expect. Thank you so much, David. You're such an incredible trainer. You do an excellent job with our people. And David, man, I can't say it enough. Having David and the rest of the team on here has just been transformative in the results of our agents. In February, we had a 95% success rate with David's agents who go through the training, buy leads, and actually work in the field. That is unheard of in the business, where 90% plus of agents fail. So that's more reason why you should join our agency, guys. If you're looking for more information on how to do it, go to davidduford.com/FAQ. Read through it. You'll see how to apply. We don't take everybody. We are very, very particular with who we choose. We want to make sure we're picking people who fit our culture, who have work ethic already, and are willing to be coached on a system that absolutely works. So again, davidduford.com/FAQ to learn more about selling at final expense in person or over the phone. We absolutely do telesales too. So thanks, guys. We'll see you later.